He lied to the cops, apparently. He was scared because he woke up and there was a gun and there was Emily and there was him who was still alive and he didn't know what to do or say. So he just said that they were going to do this together and that he also was wanting to off himself. Everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our book club series. So I took some notes on reading 6 through 8 and I'm gonna grab those and we'll get started with our discussion. A good amount of things had happened before we did the next discussion, you know, because you gotta have something to talk about. So we're gonna be doing the discussion for reading 6 through 8. If you haven't listened to those, go back and listen to them because you're not going to know what the heck's happening. All right, so Melanie goes back to work after Emily's death. Let's see. So Melanie, in her grieving, starts lying to people at work, like about where books are. So she's a librarian and people will ask her like, where is this genre or this book? And she'll like lie and tell them somewhere like completely opposite, where somebody asks her where the bathroom is and she tells them the closet. Like she tells them to go to the closet, and she's like doing it on purpose, I guess, because she's like grieving and she's like mad at the world, and so she's got like this evil side that's like lying to everyone and you know, and sending them in the wrong direction and whatever. I don't know, I just thought that was kind of funny because like I feel like we all have those moments, you know what I mean, where you're just like hurt or just like mad at the world and you just want to get back at people somehow, like not like in a way that would hurt people, but just like in a way like, you know, I get where that comes from. Okay, so let's see. Okay, and we learn also in reading 6 that Chris might get indicted and put in jail for first-degree murder. The lawyer breaks the news to Gus and James, and Gus about falls out. Let's see. James goes back to work. James wins an award for like ophthalmological surgery. He wins an award in the Journal of Medicine for one of the best doctors in ophthalmological surgery. Let's see what else happens. Gus takes Chris to the cemetery. So Chris like demands, they still wouldn't take him to see her like at the cemetery. So like he has to like beg and like demand to be taken to her grave. Like this is getting on my nerves. Like finally Gus takes him in this reading. But like if the boy wants to go to her grave, like take him to her grave, let him go. Like, oh my goodness. Anyway, so finally, he like demands his way into getting to go see Emily's grave, and Gus takes Chris, and he like lays down on top of the dirt mound and like cuddles with it, which is like really, really sad. Sorry, that was an alarm. Anyways, so that's kind of depressing. Let's see. So now we're back in the past again when Emily and Chris are really young and the family goes skiing for Christmas. Let's see. So James and Chris go rabbit hunting with a man that James met on the ski lift. His name is Hank, and they go rabbit hunting with Hank. Well, okay, so something that like I want to touch on here is James's reaction to Chris when he throws up. So you know how like Chris shoots the rabbit and he's never shot a rabbit before, but they're like cute and furry and small, and so he gets sick and throws up because he's just like in shock, I guess, because he's never shot something like this before. Like he's used to shooting like animals that are bigger than him, not cute little furry cuddly animals, and so he like gets sick after he shoots this animal while his dad's friend and him are out like hunting. And his dad, like, immediately turns, like, so jerky. Like, let me see what I wrote down. Chris shoots the rabbit, then throws up. Chris is afraid to even look at his dad after that because of the anger and embarrassment that his dad would be feeling. Like, he just knew his dad was so, like, upset about him throwing up. Like, how dare he get sick about hurting an innocent animal, you know? Like, so I found that interesting, how, like, Chris, I mean, that's bad, you know what I mean? And honestly, it's the case for a lot of people, which is really, really sad. I mean, anyways, it's very common, but he was afraid to even look his dad in the eye because he didn't want to disappoint him, because he knew he had disappointed him, so he didn't even want to look at him, because he's like, I can't do it. Like, that's when you know, like, you're afraid. Like, he's almost afraid of his dad. He's afraid to disappoint his dad. Melanie and Michael, so they're still, like, it's still Christmas holiday or whatever, and they're like, they've gone skiing or whatever. Where did that go? Hold on. Yeah, going skiing for Christmas. Okay, so Melanie and Michael hear the other couple having sex in the other room. Oh yeah, and while this is all going down, Chris sneaks downstairs and steals the liquor, and then Emily comes down there and finds him, and they, like, start taking shots together. Well, of course, the parents come in and find them, and then Emily rats Chris out. She's just like, it's his fault, he made me do it. And just, like, completely just throws his ass under the bus. Like, I had nothing to do with this, I'm a complete innocent. Which is obviously not true. Like, you know, he didn't, like, shove it down her throat. But, so that really upsets Chris, because he's like, you just threw me under the bus, homie. Like, hello. So now we're going to move on to reading number 7. Let's see. We're still in the past. It's still Christmas, and they're still, like, on their skiing trip or whatever. Okay, so Chris isn't allowed to come out of his room on Christmas morning, which sucks, like, because he's grounded or whatever, because of the whole liquor debacle, whatever. So Emily starts to feel bad, and she wants Chris to go skiing with her. She starts to feel bad for, like, telling on him. And, he only agrees to go skiing with her so that he can scare the crap out of her, because he knows he's a much better skier than her, and, like, he can take them down, like, really scary, you know, whatever they're called. You know what I'm saying? Really scary trails or whatever. And so he agrees to go skiing with her just so that he can scare the crap out of her. Well, this goes wrong because she ends up in the hospital. She ends up falling, trying to keep up with him in the hospital, and then he feels like that's his fault. So he's, like, so worried about her, and he swears to himself that he will, after this incident, after she ends up in the hospital, he swears to himself that he will be, let me see, what did I write down? She twisted her ankle. Chris decides he will be her guardian angel because he feels like it's his fault. Okay, and then they end up cuddling. Chris gets hard for the first time in his life, because Emily's, like, cuddling on him. And let's see. So they end up alone on New Year's Eve, Chris and Emily, because the parents go out, and they kiss for the first time. They, like, cuddle and kiss for the first time on New Year's Eve. That's super cute. Let's see. James ends up going back to the house during all of this to get alcohol, because the parents forgot alcohol. They forgot that it was, like, BYOB for wherever they went. Anyways, they forgot that the place they were going was BYOB. So James runs back to the house where the kids are, to get some alcohol. Well, doesn't catch them, but he sees Chris and Emily, like, kissing. And he's actually, like, happy about it. He, like, completely just, like, lets it go. And he's like, this is what we've all been waiting for, you know? So, okay, now we're going back to the present, and we're in the now. So basically, in that little part, they kiss for the first time, pretty much. Emily twists her ankle. He feels really bad. He cuddles her or whatever, takes care of her, and they kiss. And then it's a new year. Okay, so now we're back to the present. Okay, someone keeps calling Melanie's house for Emily, and we don't know who it is yet. But it's really hard because it's like, well, she's dead. Like, but you don't want to tell the other person on the phone that because you don't know who it is because they weren't saying who they were. So Melanie is just like, stop calling because they keep calling and asking for Emily. Emily's dead. So anyways, let's see. Chris goes to therapy. We find out a little bit about James's parents and why James is the way that he is, which actually explains a lot. So according to the book, admitting to pain, grief, or ecstasy was frowned upon in James's family. Like, no emotions. You didn't show anything. You acted like nothing. If any incident ever happened, you act like it never happened. Let's see. And it says the one time James cried, and James, again, if you're lost, James is Chris's dad, Gus's husband. So James is like the dad of the boy in this story. Okay, so it says the one time James cried as a kid, his parents were more worried about their tile floor than they were about him being upset. They like freaked out on him for crying for it getting on the floor. So that says a lot about James and why he is the way that he is. That's really sad. That's so sad. Unfortunately, it's the case a lot of times, which is just awful. Hold on, let me go skip this ad. Let's see. James insists on Chris going back to school. Gus is pissed. Oh, okay. So yeah, James insists after all this goes down, after he gets out of the psych ward, after Chris gets back home after being in the psych ward, Gus and James fight about him going back to school. James wants him to go back to school. He wants him to get back to normal. He wants to like continue on like nothing has happened. And Gus is like, are you insane? Like, no. And so anyways, he ends up going back to school regardless. But one thing James said that I want to touch on is when him and Gus were fighting about Chris going back to school, he says, Chris is fine. It says, his dad said, there's nothing wrong with him. And then Chris looks at him and says, do you really think that? Like, don't ever, that got me because I'm like, dude, you can't ever assume that someone else is fine, especially when a loved one that they really, really cared about has just passed away. You know what I mean? Like, and just the fact that he's like assuming that his son is fine right there, just, I feel like says a lot about the dynamic, you know? Just like the coldness and the just pretending like nothing had ever happened. Which is like so frustrating. I actually grew up in a environment like that, and it's very, 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 very frustrating. When nobody ever acknowledges anything bad. It's just the most annoying thing in the world. But yeah, no, he's like, Chris is fine. There's nothing wrong with him. And then Chris looks at him and he's like, do you really think that? And that part, I'm just like, I don't know. That just says it all. You can't assume that your son is fine. He literally hasn't said that he's fine. Like, I don't know. Anyways. So someone calls for Emily again. So this person keeps calling for Emily. We don't know who it is. It's just somebody, they can't say who they are. They just keep calling Melanie's house for Emily. And Melanie is getting like fed up with it because Emily is her dead daughter. She's like, who the hell keeps calling me? This is ridiculous. So let's see. Oh. One day when Melanie and Michael are leaving to go grocery shopping, Melanie almost runs Chris over. Now, mind you, Melanie is Emily's mom. Emily is dead, right? So she thinks Chris killed her daughter. So Melanie and Michael like pull out of their house or whatever, and you know, they're like right across from the other family, excuse me. And Chris just happens to be taking out the trash while they are pulling out of their house, and Melanie almost runs him over. It says that she like, I don't know, darts toward him and then like scuffs the side of the trash can with her car. So she like turns at the very last minute, but scares the shit out of Chris and knocks the trash over in the street. That's crazy. She lost it. Like, she over here trying to run over an 18-year-old boy because she thinks he killed her daughter. Oh, that's some drama right there. Oh my goodness. Like, and you know what is so crazy? It doesn't even say anything about that. It just like tells the story like it's something totally normal. Like, it doesn't give like any description about like, I don't know how she felt or how anybody felt in this situation. It's just it just kind of lays out what happens. Like, oh, she almost runs him over and then the trash can knocks over. And it's just like so nonchalant in the story. And I'm like, wait a minute. You can't just say that she almost ran this kid over and then just like keep moving along like nothing just happened. Excuse me, I need a second to ponder on this. Like, this is kind of a big deal. Like, anyways. So, Chris goes back to school. The faculty plans a memorial for Emily. Let's see. We learn that Chris has absolutely no early memories without Emily in them. So every early childhood memory Chris has, they're all with Emily. All right, now we're moving on to reading number 8. I almost said number 4, and I don't know why. Number 8. All right, so here we have the memorial that happens for Emily at the school. They ask Chris to give a speech during this memorial, and I guess he just gets like so flooded with emotions, and he's just like not into this memorial. First of all, let's just talk about that for a second. He is just like not having this memorial. He thinks the whole thing is cheesy. They've got like this gigantic picture of her and they're throwing flowers into a kiddie pool like under the picture, and he's just like not enjoying it at all. He's like, Em would have thought that this is just like so cheesy and ridiculous, and they would have made fun of it if she were there with him, is what is going on in Chris's mind. And so he gets up to this podium, and the principal or whoever insists that he make a speech. And so he gets up there unprepared, like naturally, when you don't know that you're gonna have to do that. And then he just starts laughing hysterically, just laughing in the middle of this like memorial for this dead girl. Like, I kind of laughed at this part just because like I've been to that point. Have you ever been to that point when like you've just been through so much crap? You're not only delusional, but you're just like at your like wit's end, like you have nothing left. So like literally whatever emotion is in you is just going to come out. And sometimes that's just laughing, even if it makes absolutely no sense. It's just the only thing that you can do. So I've been there. That part made me laugh because I'm like, dude, I totally get that. I totally get when you are just at the end of yourself and you have nothing left, and you just laugh because you're like, I got nothing. I got nothing. But yeah, anyway, so he just starts laughing at this memorial, which is like so awkward. I mean, disrespectful to say the least, but so awkward for everyone involved. Let's see. Oh, okay. So we find out finally who is calling to talk to Emily. This person has called like 3 times by now at this point. We still don't know who it is, and they're calling to talk to Emily, who is dead. Okay, so what had happened was Emily bought Chris a watch for his birthday, and she wanted it to be a surprise. So she told the person that she bought it from not to say what it was about when they called, just to call and say that it was ready, but not to say like what it was or what it was for or anything. Hold on, I gotta go skip this other ad. Emily, apparently when she was alive and she ordered this watch for Chris's 18th birthday, she tells the person that she buys it from, hey, don't say anything about it when you call. Just call and tell me, or whoever, that you need to speak. Just call and ask for me. Just call and ask for M. But don't say what it's about. And so that's why this person has continually called asking for Emily, because they don't know that she's dead, and they have this watch that she ordered, like ready for her to come pick up for Chris's birthday. But it's a surprise, so nobody knows. So Melanie goes and picks it up finally, and let's see. We learn here Chris is in therapy. Chris is in therapy talking to his therapist, and we learn here that he never wanted to off himself. He never planned on offing himself. I'm going to say off because I'm not allowed to say the other word, and I don't want to get like a mark on my YouTube record. Anyways, so Chris never did want to off himself. He lied to the cops, apparently, that we learned right here in this part, that he was scared because he woke up and there was a gun and there was Emily and there was him who was still alive and he didn't know what to do or say. So he just said that they were going to do this together and that he also was wanting to off himself. Not just Emily, but also him. And apparently this was just him panicking and coming up with something because the cops were there and he didn't know what else to do. So we find that out, which is like a huge bomb because, I mean, literally the name of this book is called The Pact. So the entire like basis of this book is off yourself pact. You know what I mean? Off yourself pact. I hope you guys are getting this. Anyways, I mean, that's like the whole basis of this book. And we just find out that like, that may not even be the case. That's crazy. And the only reason he said that was because he was scared. So, one thing that it mentions that Melanie was thinking about after she finds out about the watch, and this is like a really interesting point. I'm glad that it pointed this out. It says that if Emily was going to off herself, why would she buy a very expensive watch for his 18th birthday if she was going to off herself before it even arrived? And it was very expensive. It says it was $500. So she bought a $500 watch, told somebody to call and tell her when it came in, and then offed herself. So it doesn't make sense that she would plan it that way. And Melanie picks up on that. And I'm just like, oh, that's a good point, Melanie. That's a good point, girlfriend. And the last thing that we find out at the end of reading 8 is that Chris gets indicted for first-degree murder. Let's see. So we're back at Chris's home now, and it's Chris's birthday celebration, his 18th birthday celebration. And all of a sudden, the cops show up, and he gets arrested. And then he's indicted for first-degree murder. And that is where reading 8 ended. I know I talk really fast. I try to discuss while I talk so that you guys can follow along. But basically, the main things are, we learn a little bit about James's past. Chris is way too afraid to disappoint his dad. Let's see. Chris and Emily kiss for the first time. Chris goes to therapy. Someone keeps calling for Emily. We find out about the watch. Then there's this memorial at school where Chris laughs hysterically. It's Chris's birthday. He gets, actually before that, we find out that Chris never wanted to off himself, that he lied to the cops. And then after that, it's Chris's birthday and he gets arrested and indicted for first-degree murder. And we are contemplating why Emily would buy a $500 watch if she was planning on offing herself before she was ever going to give it to him, because it was for his birthday, right? So that's sketchy. That's sketchy. Like, that's sketchy right there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to touch on. I think that's everything, but I think that was some good conversation. And let's see. I've already posted the reading for reading number 9 is up now. So I'll probably wait for reading 10 and then do a discussion for reading 9 and 10 together. Because, there's just always, I prefer to have more to talk about. So, yeah, this book is getting juicy. It's getting dramatic. It's getting real up in here. I mean, Melanie almost ran Chris over. Can we just talk about that for a second? I'm sorry. That was aggressive. Melanie almost runs this kid over. Like, okay, I guess, nobody can say anything. Like, if I don't even know what to say. I'm just at a loss for words. How nonchalantly this was presented to us. And I don't know why that part makes me laugh. I guess I'm just thinking, I have this in my head of like some goofy movie where like some crazy woman almost runs over a teenage boy. Like, I don't know why that's like what's in my head right now, but like for some reason this is funny in my mind, and it's not funny. It's absolutely not funny, but in my head what I'm picturing is funny. So anyways, I'll see you guys next time in the discussion, or I'm sorry, in reading 10, and then we'll discuss 9 and 10. And I'm so glad that you've joined me for this book club series. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I really, really am enjoying this book club series. I'll probably most definitely do another one, because I love like talking about drama and talking about I don't know, relationship dynamics and stuff like that, especially within the context of like a storybook. It's just so interesting, and I just feel like we could talk all day about it. So anyways, I hope that you guys have a fantastic day or night, whatever time it is whenever you're watching this, and I love you so much. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.
How y'all feel out there?
I'm light years, call me eons. When the snare kick in, the beat is neon. Lights, yeah, I'm feeling magnificent. Care less what I'm up against.